Today on African American Voices of Charles County, presented by the Charles County NAACP, I have the distinct pleasure of conversing with a staple in the Charles County community, Mr. Leon Thornton, the founder, owner, and operator of Thornton Funeral Home. Opening its doors in 1968, Mr. Thornton became the first and only African American funeral director and embalmer in the county. So Mr. Thornton and I will chat a little bit about his personal journey, the funeral business, and his dedication to serving the community beyond the grave. Stay tuned for all of that and more right now on African American Voices of Charles County. Mr. Thornton.
Yes, sir.
First, let me thank you for your willingness to participate in this interview series. Based on the nature of the business, right? All Saturdays aren't created equal.
Right.
We've tried this a few times to get this scheduled, but duty calls based on the business you're in. And so we found a sweet spot and we were able to tape. And I am greatly appreciative of you willing to be here today.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So let's start at the beginning. And when I say the beginning, I mean the absolute very beginning. Born and raised. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Ashburn, Virginia.
Nice.
I became interested in the business, and I think I was about 15 years old when I got interested in the business.
15.
I went with my father to make funeral arrangements for my mother. And from that day on, I've been interested in the business.
15. So while most people are deciding whether they want to play a sport or be, you decided based on the interaction that you had with making funeral arrangements for your mother that you wanted to do this for her.
Right.
Wow. All right. So you say you're from Ashburn,
Right.
Virginia. Okay. Right. Well, so that's not that far.
No.
What I didn't know is that there were African Americans living in Ashburn at that time, with all due respect.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was life as adolescents in? Because right now, Ashburn, Virginia, just sounds to most people as the place where the Redskins practice.
Right. It was almost a city now, but when I was out there, it wasn't nothing but country.
Nothing but the country.
So, I mean, we didn't have nothing to do. If we played ball, all of us had like one of those big balls.
Yeah.
Didn't have a bat. We had a stick or whatever we could get to hit the ball with.
Good old-fashioned stick ball, right? That goes a long way.
And no place to go. We may get to the movie or something like that once a week. When I went to school, we had to walk 4 or 5 miles to school.
Now, you say 4 or 5 miles. Are we talking one direction?
One way.
So there was a 4 or 5 mile walk to school.
Right.
And then that same route was done back home.
Right. And that was a shortcut.
That was the shortcut.
And if we got in a fight or something like that
then
with
you
somebody,
had to take the long way.
then my father would make us take the long way around that, which was fun. Rain, snow, or shine, we had to make that walk. And it was 13 of us in the family.
Wow.
When my mother was sick, well, a lot of them were grown up. The last 5 of us would take a day out of school to be with my mother. Me one day, my brother one day, my sister next day, whatever like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, about 13 of us, and it's only 2 of us left now. I have one sister left now.
Wow.
And she's in Sterling, Virginia now. That's right near Ashburn.
Yeah. So she didn't stray too far.
Not far.
Which means you came to the other side of the world coming over here to Charles County.
Right.
Wow. So you said there are 13. Where do you lie in
I'm the last one.
You're the last one, the baby of the 13.
Baby
Man, that's a tough spot to be in, big guy. that is a tough place to hold.
My father said, well, somebody asked Daddy was he going to have any more children, so he said no. If he had any more, he had to number because he ran out of names.
He ran out of names. Right. Wow. So you matriculate through school,
right?
In Ashburn, and that's not Fairfax County, right? That is
That's Loudoun County.
Loudoun County, right? So you go through the Loudoun County school system. What is it like for African Americans at that time? Because honestly, until this very moment, I had no idea that there were actually African Americans there at that time. So what is it like for you and your siblings? I mean, it's 13 of y'all, so they ain't having no problems. I know that much.
Right. Well, school-wise, we was in a little one-room building, and I think it went as far as the 7th or 8th grade. I forget which it was now. Every time the teachers had her disappear, she had one class, and then they would move back. Have another class, they would move back. She done that all day long, until she got through the entire school.
Right.
So, and like I say, the building was just about half the size of this room that we're in now.
Wow.
And again, like I said, we had a great big old pot-belly stove in the middle of the floor. Half the time it's cold in there. We had to go out and get wood and what have you like that to bring it to keep a fire.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would be the main one to go get the wood to start the fire.
Right, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't want to skip over something you said with the school. So let me make sure I grasp this concept. There's first grade through 7th or 8th grade. We'll go with 7th grade for conversation's sake.
Right.
All in one schoolhouse.
All
in one school, in one room.
Right.
From 9 till 10 o'clock, that is first grade. They get done, they move back to the back of the room.
Right.
The next group moves up.
Right.
So then what are you doing in that time period?
Well, we back there doing our homework or studying or whatever like that, or getting ready for our class or whatever like that.
Wow.
And you better not keep no noise because the teacher would tear you up.
So she had to have and I assume it was a female. She had to have complete control over this room.
Exactly.
All of the different age groups, all doing completely different things.
Exactly.
At the same time.
Exactly.
Man, I got 2 daughters, and at some point it was wrangling them as something. So you talking about 1 through 7th grade? That's a lot of people. Wow, that's interesting. So you said at this point you're about 15.
Right.
Obviously, you talked about your mother being sick, and that the shifts that each person had to take. You said one person would stay home from school to take care of her.
Right.
That experience clearly had to have a profound effect on your life.
It did.
How did it happen that you ended up going with your father to make the arrangements, and of all of the 13, you?
Well, I suck on my father. If he made one step, I would make 2. I just stayed under him at all times. He worked on a railroad track driving spikes.
Oh, wow.
Putting the cross-cut ties in.
Yeah.
And when he would come home from work, I would meet him at the door for his lunchbox. He would always save a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And for one of us, whoever got to him first got the sandwich.
Got to him first got that PB&J.
And I really believe that Daddy didn't eat his lunch just to give so we could have a sandwich when he got home. I mean, he would eat half of it, but I think he saved the rest of it until he got home just to see who
wanted to profess their love that day. That's a pretty good system he's got going.
And then we never went hungry though, because we raised chickens, hogs, turkeys, and what have you like that, which I hated. Because we got ready to kill turkey. Daddy used to sell turkey at Thanksgiving time, so we had to, clean those for different people, whatever like that. And chicken, we had to catch them every Sunday morning for the Sunday dinner or whatever like that. Cut wood and bring it in, for the keep warm all night. And he taught me one valuable thing. I forget how old I was. I carried an armful of wood. The stove was right there. I put the wood behind the stove. I sat in the chair and went to sleep with my hat on. From that day on, I didn't enter this building. I'll take my hat off. My dad said, "You never come in a building with your hat on." I can go in the hardware store. I'll take my hat off.
Take your hat off, no matter where you're at.
No matter where
you enter a structure, the hat's coming off.
That's right.
Wow.
From that day on, I wish some of the children had that training today.
Yeah.
But they don't they keep the hat on and leave the pants off.
Yeah.
Or leave the belt off.
I'll be honest. I that wasn't really ingrained into me because, in the 80s and 90s, wearing baseball caps was the style. So you wore them inside. But once I joined the Air Force, it conditioned me from that moment forward. As soon as I crossed that threshold, my hat comes off.
Yep, yep.
All right. So you know what? I think we're at a good stopping point. Let's pause real quick, and then when we come back, we'll start to talk about when you decided to act upon that first encounter with the funeral business and making arrangements for your mom. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In our first portion, we talked with Mr. Thornton about the very humble beginnings in Ashburn, Virginia. Again, up until this point, I had no idea that African Americans resided there, much less a family of 13. We briefly talked about your first exposure to the funeral business. As you said, you were really close with your dad. I like what you said. If he took one step, you took two, right? Definitely to get that peanut butter and jelly sandwich when he came home. But let's pick up right there. So you matriculate through high school. You graduate. Again, I assume that's somewhere around 16, 17, probably 18, which isn't too far from when you decided that the funeral business was going to be your thing. What did you do from there?
It was a little longer than that. I think I was about 21 or 22 when I graduated from high school because, I would miss a lot of time, from school. Like I said, because of the distance and what have you like that. But all this time, from the time I went to make arrangements for my mother, I kept that in mind.
Yeah.
Even when I was in high school, I studied what I could, and I'm kind of a slow learner. I hold what I get, but it takes me a little while to get it.
Right.
So when we would have assemblies on Friday mornings, everybody would go to the auditorium. So this particular Friday morning, it's kind of funny, but three people planned not to go to the assembly. I didn't go, but they had planned different things. All of us went into this one room. So this one young lady asked me, said, "Are you afraid of women?" I said, "No, why?" She said, "You're supposed to be with me." I said, "Why am I supposed to be with you? I'm studying. I got to do something like that." So then she got kind of frustrated because I didn't take my time and, talk with her. But I was studying my English or whatever I had to do so that I got some kind of a pass mark because I didn't want to stay in high school all my life.
Right.
So, and then after that, I moved to Washington, D.C. I moved with one of my brothers.
Okay.
And I lived with him. Then again, I rode the bus from Northwest, well, both of them was in Northwest, to Armstrong High School.
Okay.
We had school tickets, and they had bus tickets. I think they were 3 cents. And what we would do, we would split the ticket, and they made the 3 cents a cent and a half. So you could ride the bus twice,
Nice.
So I just, done that until I graduated from Armstrong High School. And then after that, I worked a little while, and then I still had the film business in mind. I went to Philadelphia, the Eccles College of Multimedia Science.
Wow. Okay.
And I left D.C. We left D.C. at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's only an hour and a half drive. It must have been 8 o'clock at night when we got there. We had probably 2 foot of snow.
Oh, wow.
My sister, my oldest sister, my nephew, and my cousin. Every time we get to a little grade, they would have to get out. I was driving. They have to get out and push the car. We were driving about 5 or 10 miles an hour because of that much in snow.
Wow. But you were going to Philly to
go to school.
Yeah,
I went to Eccles College of Multimedia Science.
Wow.
And while I was there, I didn't know where I wanted to go in business. Some states required 12 months, and the other required 9. Well, Washington, D.C. required 9 at that time. I didn't know where I want to go, so I just take the whole 12 months, so I'll be qualified already wherever I decide to go.
Where we decided, right.
Okay, so when I got back to Washington, I started working at a funeral home there, which done some work in Charles County.
Okay.
And that's how, and when I met my wife, out here on the field. And from that day on, I've been coming out here ever since.
So let me get this right. So now you follow through with it. What I find incredible is that in high school, instead of going to the assembly, you were in essence self-tutoring. Like you were
Right,
going to
right.
this classroom where people who I wish I had that mindset if I was cutting school to actually cut the class to do more classwork. But while you were there, you were taking care of
Exactly,
subsidizing your
exactly.
education and what
Uh,
you needed to get from class. You then move with your brother because we talked about that during the break when I asked you how far your family, all the
right,
siblings moved. You
right.
said the furthest was DC, which we chuckled because from
Uh-huh.
Ashburn to DC back then, you might as well have moved to Miami. It was all the same, right?
That's right.
So so you move in with them. You then decide, but how did you hear about this school, this mortuary school in Philadelphia? And then the journey to get there, but you had to apply or somehow. How did you hear about the school?
I think my brother. I'm not 100% sure. I think my brother, done some research,
For you,
and he
right?
found that the Eccles College was the closest one.
Right.
And while I was in Eccles, believe it or not, I had to walk again to school. I didn't have no money. I wasn't gonna bother my sister's brother. I
Yeah.
wasn't married at that time. And I walked, I guess, 20 blocks again in snow,
Yeah.
low
Yeah.
quarter shoes.
You and this snow, man. Y'all got a personal relationship, man. I don't
That's
I
why,
don't know
that's
if
why I
you
don't care what we get
yeah,
in there or
man. I
not.
don't know if you're the living embodiment of the abominable snow, abominable snowman or what. But wow.
So I went to, like I said, I walked back and forth to school, and I didn't have money to really live on.
Right.
And I moved in with a family. The man had a wife and two children.
Hmm.
And he saw I didn't have no money. So I went to the lunchroom. I might have had $1.50, $2, got a bowl of soup.
Hmm.
And I done that for a couple of days. So he said, Thornton, know you hungry. He said, but why don't you have dinner with us this evening? So I said, quite naturally, I'll welcome it. Then he said, well, my wife work at night. If you stay here and see that the food is done when she leave or whatever like that, then you can eat with us. It was like a gold mine.
Yeah.
I just stayed right there. And
Yeah.
from that day on, I just, I lived with those people. I still paid them what little bit of rent I had,
Right.
but didn't have to buy no food. Didn't have to
Nice.
do anything.
Nice. So you're back in DC. You're going back and forth. You do the 12 months in Philly. You're back in DC working at the funeral home. You said you slipped that in there too.
Yeah.
That coming back and forth to Charles County is where you met your wife.
Right.
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 And doing some research, I realized what meeting your wife meant to what is now Thornton's Funeral Home. And we'll
Right.
talk about that in a second. So you're coming down to Charles County. Obviously, you meet her and you're going back and forth. Why is Charles County, outsourcing their funeral business with all of the African Americans that are here? Why are they going all the way to DC for that?
Well, that's why I decided to open a business here because they had to go. Well, actually, I carried my remains back and forth to D.C. to do the preparation
Right.
until after I had remodeled my place. I think I was in my place, I guess, 6, 7 years before I had my embalming room. So I went back and forth to D.C., kind of very embalming dressing, then bring them back here, for the funeral or wake or what have you like that.
Yeah.
And then at that time, I think I could seat about 24 people
Yeah.
in my chapel. So I taken every dime I got, which I still do today, and put right back in the business. So now we can see over 400 people,
Wow.
in the chapel. When we had a wake or a funeral at the funeral home, I had it downstairs. We lived upstairs.
Wow.
The children would come down to maybe the fourth or fifth step, and people around the corner.
Right. And there are people in there
see
having
what
a
was going
full-on
on,
funeral.
Right.
Right.
But
So
they were quieted them out though. They didn't make no noise or nothing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the early days of the funeral home for you was in the bottom of your actual house.
Exactly where I live right now.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So you're upstairs, you and your wife, your kids are upstairs, but you're running the funeral home
Downstairs.
downstairs.
Right.
Explain to me when you decided to open it here in Charles County and you first started, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business that doesn't run out of customers, right? So, but what did it mean to the community that you opened the funeral home here?
Well, I think 90% of the people really appreciate it because the customers that I had in '68, some of them are still coming, not the same ones, but the families are still coming back to us. And I didn't like the way that we were being treated when they went to these other funeral homes. They would, I understand they would take the flowers out of the flower room and set the remains up in there or in the garage or what have you like that.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit more pride, in my people than that. And we like to pay special attention to each one of our families. We give everyone in our family, special attention. We're going to see you either make an arrangement at the wake, at the funeral, or in other words, we're going to come in contact with you somewhere. We'd like to make this personal contact.
Yeah.
I may not do it. My niece may do it, and my daughter may do it. Well, that's my daughter too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. We're going to make personal contact with each and every family.
And that came from the sense of pride in the community and wanting to fill the gap that wasn't being, even in death, African Americans weren't being treated
It was not being treated
best, right? And so, so you're opening the business here, you're growing it. As you said, you took every dime and put it right back in from the beginning, which we'll talk about later because the mindset that has the revolving door of money in the business doesn't just stop with the funeral, which leads me to believe, and I know because I've done some research, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll talk about the other businesses that you have invested in that are all community minded, right? Mm-hmm. But to stay here, so how integral was the business and the relationship with you and your wife? Obviously, you started it. I mean, it was your passion, but I'm not sure if it was actually her passion or her love for you decided to be a part of the business. How did that work?
Her love for me, probably. And I don't see how she could have done that. I don't see how she could have done that. But anyway, like I say, she was a school teacher.
Okay.
And
where did she teach, if you don't mind me asking?
She taught at Yale Bailey. She taught at Indian Head, and I think Mount Hope.
Okay.
So she taught at the 3 schools.
Wow.
And she was dedicated, to the children.
Yeah.
She had a whole lot of ideas. I still got some of her books and her drawings and her homemade makings that she had in the classroom.
Yeah.
Right then, she taught more to school and the children than she did to me, I believe. So she was real dedicated to that. So to make a long story short, if I was busy, she would be either late going to school or leave school to come home to meet her family or what have you like that.
Wow.
But I tried to keep that away from her as much as I could.
Yeah. But she held you down, man. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Like I say, I know she thought about the children in a sense.
Yeah.
Because she was trying to, bring them up in the right way.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think the worst thing, I don't know why I should say this now, but I'm saying it anyway. I think the worst thing that they could have done when they integrated school, in a sense, now don't get me wrong.
No.
Because the children don't get the attention that they should have had when they had all black teachers teaching them to do the right thing.
Sir, we have had that conversation on this show quite a few times, and the consensus is the same. That in some ways we lost a little bit of that, which, shameless plug, I'm very happy my daughter decided to choose an HBCU for college because she gets to feel that at that level, that it still exists somewhere. So let's pause real quick. We'll come back, and when we come back, we're going to stretch a little further past the funeral business into some other things.
Well, I'm not finished with the funeral business yet.
Oh, well, you know what? Well, then we're not going to get past it. We're going to come back and talk more funeral stuff.
All right. That's all right.
My man, we appreciate it. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We're the NAACP. We don't follow movements, we define movements.
welcome back. We were going to go in a different direction when we got back, but during the break, we were having a conversation that I think is very important to note. The dedication and the time commitment to starting this business, to being in this business, is not a scheduled 9 to 5. You were telling me the story about going back and forth between Baltimore to here in Charles County. And you said you were basically on call 24 hours a day. You
That's right.
slept by the phone, but your pay was what? $24.09 a week.
That's what it was.
Wow. And that's on call any given time throughout the day and night.
Exactly.
Wow. That's not a lot of money. It sure is a lot of snow, but it ain't a lot of money.
Well, one Friday, I got my paycheck. I'm gonna eat high on the hog, if I may say so.
Yeah.
I went to the store and got myself a can of crab meat. Got some green pepper, whatever like that. What you know how you make it up?
Yeah.
Somehow I know the crab meat had gone bad.
Ah.
I put it in the trash can. I come and say, I think I paid $1.03 or $1.04 for that. I come and say, I said, I can't waste my dollar like that. I got up the next morning and picked that crab meat out of the trash can, put it back in the can, carried it back to the store.
To the store. Did you get the refund?
Yeah, he gave it to the man. He was real nice. He gave my money back.
Yeah.
And then he gave me something else. He said, well, yeah, mister, go ahead and take this too. He said, I know you're hungry. I said, yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had some good people, in
Absolutely.
my corner.
Absolutely. Wow. So you and your wife, you grow this business. As you said, you started from literally the basement or the lower level of your home
Right.
to now a building that has 400 seats in the chapel
Right.
just by itself. And you circulated that dollar. Clearly, a dollar doesn't get past you with your crab meat story.
That's right.
And nothing goes to waste, right?
That's right.
In that, how do you decide to invest in other businesses? Is it from the community need, the fact that you are seeing these individuals, and so there are other opportunities?
It's from, like you say, the community need, and I like to see things grow. Now, I had the opportunity to buy this building Certique. My wife and I were riding around one day, looking. I like to buy property. Riding around one day, and we saw this building. And so she said, well, I know the person, it was closed. She said, I know the person who owns it. So she called and asked, did she want to sell it? So she said, yeah. So, we went on board. Didn't know what I was going to do. We had no intention of making a nightclub out of it or what have you. So I said to my wife, I said, well, let's try to get our license. She said, well, no, I don't think we'll afford that. I said, why not? The building, that's what it was before we bought it.
Absolutely.
Went to and got a license just like that, which was, I guess, lucky. America that we got them like that.
Absolutely. Right.
But from that day on, I went on that remodeling when I first got it, so that we could have somewhere decent to go.
Yeah.
And then I remodeled again in '08. Where it's if I must say so myself, it's right nice for somebody to come and have a wedding reception. Or, whatever like that.
And as a branch, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Your support of the Charles County NAACP obviously goes unnoticed. But Certique's is an interesting place in and of itself because, again, it leans to the mindset that you have of providing spaces and taking care of African Americans in the community, right? And you said it, you said you wanted a nice place for people to go, which is why it was remodeled under your watch. Certique's has a history of being in the county for quite a few years. I mean, it's a storied history of being an establishment for entertainment for African Americans. So, but there's also a mindset that you have that I feel is really, really interesting. So you need to build some homes for some family members. And instead of going out and finding a contractor, you start a construction company. Wow. What's the mindset of that, sir? Because most people don't say, you know what, I need to build my daughter a house. I'm going to start a construction company.
Well, like I say, you said it right, I built my daughter's house. Well, I bought this piece of property right next to me.
Yep.
3 people had looked at the property. The lady had 3 different, I'd say, bids on it, but 2 of them wanted her to do something to make sure it passed perk, make sure this, make sure that. So I told her, I said, well, I will buy it as is. I wasn't the lowest bidder and I wasn't the highest, but she accepted my bid.
Nice.
So I went on and had it, appraised, whatever like that. Then I built my daughter's house. Then I built my niece's house, which is my other daughter.
Your daughter,
I
absolutely.
built her house and I built one other house, since then.
Yeah.
And on the same piece of property, I think there have been 2 or 3 other houses built that I, sold them, lots on that.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure, my children, and I still do, I want to make sure that they, are comfortable.
Absolutely. So the construction company only lasted as long as that construction.
Yeah.
That is, that's pretty impressive. I gotta tell you, there's a lot of things I learned today, and that joins the list of pretty impressive things. Yeah.
Well, I done that to save them money. Cause I don't know what the house value at, but I know I built it as half of the cost that what it would have cost them to purchase it otherwise.
Were you intentional about the people that you had working for your construction company?
Yeah. What was that now?
I said, were you intentional about who you hired to work
for
the construction company?
Yeah, I had certain people that I wanted, people that I could trust and know that they weren't doing the work or just putting in time, just to get paid. Because a whole lot of time they would get paid in maybe a week or 2 weeks, or at least a week, but maybe a couple of weeks before they even asked for any money or what have you like that.
Yeah.
All I would have to do was just furnish the supplies.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's incredible, man. That is incredible. And I find it interesting. I find it interesting where you're actually located. Your funeral home is literally a stone's throw from the site of Pamunkey High School. It's a stone's throw from the Methodist church that's right there, and it builds to the mystique and the hallowed ground of that area and what it means to African Americans in this county. And I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that's just how it all, shook out based to laws and permits. But either way, that section of the county is propped up, coupled with your business and what you've done.
Now, it wasn't easy now. When I went to get my first building permit, I think I went about 5 or 6 times. Every time I would go, thought about this, come back in 30 days, come back in 6 months. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but please. I got a contractor to build it. And the last time I went to get the building permit, he was in the office. So he said, Thornton, did you get your building permit? So I said, no, they told me to come back in 6 months. He was in the center on the counter. He got off the counter, went around, and recently he said, fill this out. I filled it out in about 2 or 3 minutes. He said, give me $129. Now, first I was supposed to come back in 6 months.
Yeah.
So I wrote him a check for $129. He went around the counter and got a building permit. And then I think he started working the next 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Wow. Hey, man, it's going to be what it is. But you got to be in the right space
That's right.
in the right time
That's
to be
right.
able to benefit from opportunity.
Exactly.
Wow. So your business has grown. It is again, as I prefaced in the intro, it is a staple in the Charles County community, and the service that you have provided and continue to provide obviously is incredible, and people are obviously appreciative of all that you have done and have given.
I certainly hope so.
What would you say? What would you say is your biggest accomplishment to this point in life as general?
The funeral home.
The funeral.
The funeral home. Fatigues and the construction company and my limousine service, all like that. It's good. I appreciate it. I love it. But the funeral home, I eat that, sleep that, and then I'll die that.
Yeah, and you'll die that.
I'll die that.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's a 24/7.
yeah.
However, some of my employees don't believe that. They're there from 8 to 5.
Right.
8 to 5 minutes to 5.
Then 8 to 5 minutes to 5. Hey, I get it. I do. The nature of that business clearly is on call, and you've stretched past it in many different ways. What I also wanted to do, and I started it in our last segment, and I because people work so hard and people do so much for the community. Again, we tend to forget that they are human beings, and that they have outside interests. And at some point, someone has to turn the work balance part off, and there's a life balance. So I'm going to ask you, what hobbies do you have?
Working. But really, truly, I don't. I like to work. I like to see things grow.
Yeah.
So, really and truly, I don't. That's my main thing.
That's your thing.
I mean, I won't go out to do it. I do it and everything, but I love to work. I like to see things. I get out in the yard. I like to plant flowers and things like that. I like for things, to look good.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I mean, wow. I'm appreciative that we got this time to chat, and I know this definitely won't be your last time here, because there's a lot more for us to talk about. But in this situation, we've only got 1 hour tops. So again, I am thankful for all that you were intentional about providing African Americans in this county. You saw a need. You met that need based on the way you felt, even in death, that they were being treated. And above all of the thank yous that you get from the people you provide a service to, as an organization and as a civil rights organization who are concerned about African Americans and how they're being treated, I would thank you more than enough for that. As we bring this conversation to a close, again, thank you for your willingness to participate in this interview, and again, for your unwavering service to the community. I want to thank Justin, Amber, and Mike for all of their hard work behind the scenes. This show would not exist without their support. Finally, and most importantly, a special thank you goes out to you, the viewer, for watching. Stay in touch with the Charles County NAACP on all social media platforms for meetings and upcoming events. I am your host, Joe Sampson Jr., and I will see you next time on African American Voices of Charles County. Thank you.